It isn't every day that you see a somewhat serious game that tackles mental health and other issues in a somewhat fun way. South of Midnight is a game that has been received with decent amounts of praise on Metacritic. For the sake of not pounding our heads against the immovable wall of woke weirdos and people unwilling to see outside their own box, we're going to ignore the user's score as well. We all know what most of the time, the genuine people's scores are buried under the ones throwing poop at each other. Many critics pointed out the world as being one of the most beautiful ones put to gaming in years, while poking holes in the combat for being somewhat repetitive, and I have to admit that feels somewhat spot on. The game is by all accounts of the word fun, but there are a few things that drag it down from a game perspective. Before wasting more time than we need to, let's get into the specifics. At the start of the game, you are a somewhat normal woman. Hazel doesn't have access to all the fancy abilities you see in the trailers, and honestly, right off the bat, your only real goal is to help your mom pack so they can get out of a hurricane's way. An argument ensues about how Hazel's mother, who is a social worker, cares more about the safety of the people under her care more than her own, and really that they should have left way before they are right now, as a hurricane is pretty much barreling down upon them. When Hazel leaves, their house is quite hilariously ripped off its foundation and is sucked into a flash flood that leads her deeper into the bayou in search of her mother. What transpires from this point on is that you discover you are a weaver, a magical person who mends broken bonds and spirits, and these powers help you uncover her family's past, as well as mend the grand tapestry that ties everything together. Lost yet? Well, I will admit I was too. Honestly, the story is more or less a roller coaster ride of Southern-inspired Gothic folklore, wrapped into an artistically amazing bundle that really doesn't let off the gas. You are mostly always chasing after some sort of big monster, and most of the time the story revolves around you helping them get over their traumas of their past that made them this way. We got everything from giant alligators with trees growing on their backs that is a manifestation of abuse, to a giant tree that is more or less the result of a brother's jealousy. Every boss you face in this game, even if they don't have a huge amount of combat attached to them, deals with some form of negative emotions that have twisted them into these versions of themselves. As a weaver, your job is to untangle these knots and by extension save them from the thing tearing them apart from the inside, both literally and figuratively for some of these bosses. It's definitely an interesting concept, and more often than not, when you fight normal enemies, they are more or less just guarding these negative emotions and the memories attached to them, so you as the weaver can almost heal these bosses in a way. Heal is the easiest way to put it without spoiling too much, but essentially that is what it means by that. I honestly don't want to spoil too much just for the sake of those that haven't played it, but I will say that I really did enjoy it. Some parts can drag on a bit and feel like added fluff as opposed to what's needed for the story, but these are few and far between. But let's take a moment to really get into why I think people will love this game, and that is the art direction. Now, I think it's no secret that this game is beautiful. More often than not, you are going to be shuffled through a variety of different areas that each have their own unique feels and how they kind of present themselves. No two areas really look the same, and you will no doubt have more than a few moments where you just stop and look at the world around you, especially in regards to some of the bosses that are in these areas. Each one has their own biome, and the way their models look almost always represents the type of pain that they are going through and that they went through in the past. I know I keep going back to the alligator, but seeing how he is the first boss, I think his area and his model are the easiest to describe without ruining anything. He appears as this massive brute of an alligator that is a glutton for anything he can fit in his mouth. His size, like everything in the game, is a reflection of his past where he was starved by his owner, and now he eats anything he can get his grubby little stubs on, even when he doesn't need it. And honestly, this is just one of the 5 major bosses you fight. Each one has their own area that is a beauty to see, and I can almost guarantee you will enjoy the world for all it has to offer and the critters that call it home. Well, let's get into the thing that is the weaker part of the game in my opinion, which is the gameplay itself. Now, I will admit a vast majority of the game is essentially just you walking into a preset area, clearing out the generic enemies called Haints, who are mostly guarding a basin that spreads out this kind of thorny corruption, and well, that's kind of it. Once you defeat the enemies in this area, more often than not, you are treated to a cutscene giving us more backstory on one of the bosses, either what happened to them in the past or what's currently happening to them, or it's just a way to continue forward, and honestly, that's it. Now, the combat is honestly only about 40% of the game, and honestly, 40% might be stretching it. And at times, it can feel a little frustrating once you get into the later portions, as these Haints don't play games. They will stunlock you, and you will die if you aren't careful. But besides that, the gameplay loop is mostly platforming, which I thoroughly enjoyed as the developers clearly used it in a way that both shows off the world in a beneficial way, and it makes sense from a progression standpoint. Other than the repetitive gameplay loop and the fun platforming and exploration, there really isn't much else to talk about. I mean, you're either going to hate the combat or you're going to love it. And though it can be a bit tedious sometimes, it is fluid and everything feels smooth from casting abilities to dodging. There's just a few times where I was getting hit mid dodge, but I mean, this game might just have different iframes that I'm used to, and the timing might be different, and I really can't be mad at them for that, because not every game has to be clean with its dodge system like some of the Dark Souls games are, which is the best comparison. I mean, overall, the gameplay is fine. Boss fights are mostly gimmick based, which only one or two really requiring you to actually hit the boss. Normal enemies can be kind of obnoxious, but in a challenging way sometimes, and other times they're kind of painfully dumb and kind of just let you beat them to shreds. And the platforming is a fun way to kind of get around and kind of discover things in the open world. And on that note, the game really isn't open world. It's more so like linear with a little side paths that you can get stuff. But I mean, it's done in a way that it feels right. And I mean, you're going to either enjoy the gameplay loop or you're going to despise it. I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I thought the combat was a little repetitive, but the platforming I think makes more than up for it in just the way it so smoothly transitions you around the world. Well, here we are. South of Midnight is once again a game I didn't really expect to enjoy. This wasn't really, honestly, anything about it specifically. I just kind of heard about it, saw it was releasing, saw it on Game Pass the other day, and was like, I think I'm going to download just because I really have nothing to play at this moment, at least until Expedition 33 comes out, or this Oblivion remaster that's kind of looming in the horizon and doing weird things in the background. Its story is interesting enough to keep you guessing, and the ways they approach certain mental health and trauma aspects is honestly some of the best I've seen in a game in a while. The world is truly the highlight here, and I think it's what the game will be remembered for years from now, and I think it's what people are going to enjoy the most out of it. Gameplay is, like I said, okay, but I really do think once you get the fluidity down of the moves and how to counter the enemy types, you will more than likely be able to look past it for the sake of what you're pressing towards, honestly. Yes, the story does keep you going for the most part, and you're never really going to be bored. The platforming is great, and honestly, I enjoyed it for the 7 hours it took to beat the campaign. More than worth a download if you have a Game Pass, and honestly, for $40, it ain't a bad buy either. I liked it, and if you like narrative-based adventure games, slash platformers, slash a gorgeous world that kind of keeps you invested, you will as well. I found myself more than happy at the end, and though it will be uninstalled soon for other things, I will remember it for, honestly, its world and the story it told. As always, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. This one's on the shorter side as usual because, honestly, it's a 7-hour game. There really isn't much to talk about. But as always, I hope y'all have a good rest of your night, a good rest of your afternoon, a good rest of your evening, a good rest of your week, month, year, wherever you're watching it right now. And as always, till next time.